So I'm Marcus Wilson. I'm one of the directors at Puka & Co. And we're just facilitating these meetings, really. I'm here in the room with my colleague Paul. And online we have Mads and Sean from Puka who are doing the moderation of the online chat as well. So if you have any questions, type them in the chat. They'll make sure they get through to us in the room as well. And then we'll open up microphones later on to have questions and have a bigger discussion towards the end of the meeting. So today's meeting, we tend to focus on a different subject each time. And this time we're going to focus on a CiviCRM extension. This is a CiviBooking extension, which has been around for quite a while. I've sort of dipped my toe a few times, but never really used it in anger. But we have somebody online who knows it much better than we do. So Mathieu is joining us from Montreal today, where I believe, Mathieu, it's minus 15 degrees, so I'll stop complaining about how cold Edinburgh is. And you will be talking today. You'll give us a bit of a demo of CiviBooking, what it does, what it can do for organisations. Mathieu and his organisation Symbiotic Coop have taken on some of the development and the maintenance of this plugin. So he's also taking something of a lead on developing the plugin and trying to make it better. So Mathieu, if I hand over to you, maybe you can introduce yourself and share your screen, and we'll just make sure that that's showing here in the room as well.
Sure. Well, thank you, Marcus, and thank you to all the Puka team for inviting me here and organizing this meetup. I think we were talking just before that there's a lot happening in the CiviCRM community, but we're pretty bad at promoting all the new developments, and there's a lot happening. So it's fun to be able to present here. So my name is Mathieu Latvi. I'm from Coop Symbiotic. I'm based in Montreal, Canada. You can probably tell from my name and my accent that my first language is French, but so if there's anything you need clarifications, don't feel free to interrupt me. So I've been working with Symbiotic for about 12 years, and I've been working with CiviCRM for almost probably 18, 19 years, so a long time. I'm also a member of the CiviCRM core team since I think 2018. So the core team is like a small team of people who kind of manage the project and the infrastructure behind CiviCRM. So it's just a fairly small team, a few full-time developers. I play more of a role of sysadmin. I help with the hosting of CiviCRM Spark. But my main day job is Symbiotic. So we're a 4 or 5 person company based in Montreal. Yeah, so speaking of weather, if you want a fun fact, I was looking this up today. We have colder weather and more snow than Greenland in winter, apparently. And in summer, it's warmer than Cuba. So feel free to visit anytime. I'll be happy to show you my favorite pub. So anyway, CiviBooking has a bit of a history. It exists since 2013. And it was started by a company called CompuCo, based in the UK. It became, they invested a lot of development in it, but I guess towards, towards 2020, like a few years later, the development had kind of stopped. And now and then we get requests in the community, in the chat of like, oh, I use Booking, I upgraded CiviCRM, but it's not working anymore. So from time to time, a few people would, send in patches. Many developers, like they tried, fixing a few bugs here and there, but there wasn't any more maintainers. So as a community, we took control of took over the maintenance of the extension. So to make it kind of just more usable for people who are already using it, because, as any organization using software, if you run whether it's Windows or it's CiviCRM or whatever, sometimes when you do an upgrade and things break, it's kind of frustrating. So we try to avoid that in CiviCRM as much as we can, but we know it happens.
Recording is on.
All right. So it was kind of in maintenance mode for a few years. And then recently in 2025, a new developer came along, Duncan White. I don't know if he's here. But anyway, Duncan kind of just showed up and started doing huge changes to Booking to really fix the interface, fix a lot of visual bugs, add new integration with the newer, fancier things of CiviCRM, such as SearchKit, which makes Booking much more flexible. So now we could finally say, like, yeah, Booking kind of works, but it has a few glitches. To maybe a year later, to like now we just made a new release and it's really stable, and we're like feel confident in recommending it. And so I have a few things we can show. So if there's no questions so far, oh right, sorry, in the chat. So I'll share my screen. That's good. Okay, so this is a development environment. It has a few, like I did test it, but the classic, at least while showing dev environments is there might be glitches now and then. So don't worry too much, but this is Civi 6.12, which is a fairly default configuration, and I installed CiviBooking already. So I guess I'll show you the basic feature functionality of CiviBooking, which is the classic use cases might be, for example, if you're a community organization, you have offices or a community space that you rent out either to partners or to the community. And so CiviBooking will let you have like a calendar where you can see the calendar for that room, the book, who booked it, and have like a pricing, invoice organizations if necessary, things like that. Send emails, and then it all ties in with the usual Civi features, such as just managing all your contacts and their interactions in the same place. And then you can add other things such as Civi rules for automations and workflows and things like that. So jumping in, just because it's very abstract, and again, interrupt me anytime, but as an admin, this would be like, okay, I have someone on the phone or I have an email or request and I want to book a room. So I will navigate, to that day. And so here I have 2 meeting rooms, and I've been doing a lot of tests. So I'm also trying to use it for just booking meetings with clients, for example. So let's say 1st of February, these 2 rooms are empty, not occupied. So I'll just reserve an event here from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. And then I'll just say it's a meetup. I'll get back to some of these configurations and quantities later on, because there's a bit of a chicken and egg sometimes issue with configuring it initially. We can add various resources. If we had things like we have to rent a projector, we need to, how many tables do they need? You can add all those resources in the system and then book them all at the same time, have pricing for all of those resources. It creates a basket. And then just continue. You can add like additional charges. I probably didn't configure them here, so I won't take any risks, but that would be probably like catering fees or things like that. Any things that's not typically a resource from the organization. You can enter discounts. And then continuing the booking. So if the person's already in your CRM, enter them directly. If not, you could create a new organization, just classic CiviCRM interface. You can have a secondary contact for that booking if necessary. A booking status. And then purchase order, title, date of the booking, just basic things. You can send confirmation email, and then who do you email? I won't do it because it's dev environment, so it's probably disabled, but then we can record a payment. So that's it. That's, as a day-to-day managing the tool of managing resources, booking a room in the community space, things like that. I think it's a fairly efficient interface. And once that's done, then you have your find bookings. So kind of a dashboard. It's kind of going to evolve a bit more into a better dashboard eventually, but this is just an example of an interface that was rebuilt with SearchKit. So that also means that you can just edit this screen here and like change change the labels, change the columns, just to tweak it to your liking. Kind of going off track. I'm just saying, like, these are nice CiviCRM things that where, especially for integrators, maybe not the end users, because you, like the admins, you don't want necessarily everyone playing into this because it can be challenging sometimes, but at least for integrators, it means that when you're setting this up initially, you can tweak it without doing a lot of development. That's pretty much it. We have our bookings. You can record payments, change the status, cancel, obviously. And then there's a few other things which, well, basically the day view, which I have to admit, I'm not quite sure. It's terribly useful, but anyway, it exists. We'll probably be replacing that eventually. So that's it. Just very quickly. So, okay, this is as an admin. Now, I did some disclaimers on the configuration. I found it a bit challenging at first to dive into booking because it has all these terms such as, well, it's basically resource configuration sets and resources. So I wish we could find more user-friendly terms for this, but basically a resource config is what's the actual thing that you're booking. So your resources might be rooms, projectors, tables, people. But your configurations will be meetups, conferences, board meetings, because these have, pricing or constraints that are different depending on the circumstances. So at least that's my understanding of it. And so the first thing you usually do is start with the configuration sets. It's very basic. So you give it a name, and then let's call it a bit more all right, let's pick it that way. 100 people. Yeah, so again, you see all these units, you have people, tables, laptops, and you can configure all these things later on. And then if we go into our resources, all that we have, our rooms will be like our room, meeting room 1, a location, and then a configuration set, which is empty because they've always all been assigned. But, something like that. Sorry, again, testing environment. I know I shouldn't do this. So anyway, that's really the basics of CiviBooking configuration. Is you have your configuration sets, which is the thing that you're booking, and the resources, which are part of the booking. And since it's CiviCRM, you can configure pretty much everything, the different statuses we saw. So if you need to tweak these, you can. The size units, the charges for cancellation. These are settings for, CCing someone when you're booking things. You can change the colors on the that booking calendar. I think that's really it. I don't like to go too much in details because this is really rabbit holes, and I like to hear more about use cases or questions you may have about that. And if not, I can show you something else that we're kind of building on top of this.
Thank you, Mathieu. I do have a couple of things it would be nice if you could show. I believe that when a booking is made, it appears somewhere on the contact record as well. Are you able to show us that?
Yep. So I've been doing a lot of tests with the Adams family. This is the standard test data from CiviCRM sandboxes. So again, an advantage of CiviBooking, like with many other CiviCRM things, like CiviCRM is a set of different software that are integrated together, whether it's mailings that replaces MailChimp, contribution pages that will replace all these other software. Sometimes Civi has a lot of these other features and they're tied in together, and all your data is at the same place. So I think that's a really good point, that you want to see all the past bookings of this organization or this person. You see under contact record, as well as obviously you can use find bookings.
Thank you. Yes, we have a question in the room. And by the way, if anyone online would like to ask a question as well, you can type it in the chat or just raise your hand and we can put you on microphone. Be aware we are recording this online meeting and it will be made available later. So if you prefer not to appear on camera, just add something in the chat. Alison.
Hi Matthew. I'm from an organisation that is brand new to using Civi, so we're just getting going with it. And I've got a couple of my colleagues online. And my question is directly related to that of looking up the contact, which is if you're emailing with the client or customer about their booking, if that appeared all in the one place against the contact as well, so that literally everything's in the same place.
So if they send, if they receive a reminder about their upcoming booking, for example, or if you did So I think so, yes, if I understand the question correctly, like if you sent out reminders that would show on the contact record, I think CiviCRM has this a bit, I call it an inconsistency where, for example, a contribution received doesn't show as an activity. Like you don't see that email on the contact record. And so the booking received might not be on the contact record either, because I think it assumes that if you're looking at a booking, at least for contributions or others, you'll see the contribution and you'll see the contribution transaction ID. So it's assuming that you would see the equivalent of the copy of that receipt if you had it.
That would raise an invoice. That if this was a paid booking, this would raise an invoice which should be available under the contributions tab of the record. Is that right?
Exactly.
But that's not currently linked to the bookings tab at this stage.
So it's a good question. I have to admit I don't often test it, but normally you would see a link between the booking and the contribution. You'd be going back and forth between the tabs, but if you're opening the
so you can record payment from that.
So again.
Okay, so you've got your contribution there as well now. Okay, and that's for your booking.
Okay, there's a network error. So I'll look into that, but normally it should be displaying the link between two. So you see that the payment is for that booking.
Okay, so it integrates the contribution system. Now, it sounds like Craig might be a power user of CiviBooking. So Craig, do you want to say something about that as well, having used the extension?
Hi there, sorry, just turning my microphone back on. Yeah, I mean, power user is not quite right. We installed it just before Christmas and I spent yesterday configuring it. I found that it works really well with SearchKit and the SearchKit calendar extension, so you can expose room bookings to a calendar view. But at the moment, so what I've got set up is I've got a web form that creates an activity where someone can request a booking, and that's stored in an activity. Our member of staff then looks at the activity, creates a booking in CiviBooking, and then I've looked at the problem with sort of like linking a payment to it when you're creating it is it looks as though the payment's completed. So when they get the notification, it looks as though they've already paid for the thing. So I'm looking at a internal process where we get our finance department to send invoices out once the booking has been created, and then the finance department update the booking when the payment's been received. So I was just looking, two things that would make this really kind of impress my colleagues is, one, if when someone's on a web form, can they create the booking directly from the web form? And also, if there was a bit more of a link between a booking creation and kind of a contribution page, so that, you know, here you go, I'd like to book this room for tomorrow morning, here's 50 quid, bang, the booking's created. At the moment, that kind of full kind of workflow isn't there. It's 3 different bits that we're going to have to manage separately, and I'm not expecting wonders from it, because it works a lot better than I thought it did from having looked at it 10 years ago. But I was just wondering, is there a kind of like a ball, is there a game plan to move in that direction?
Matthew.
Yeah, that's a good segue. So I wasn't sure whether I would be showing it. So again, as I mentioned, like as a developer and as a, you know, I need something to book meetings, and someone asked me to set up a Calendly, and as a developer, I'm pretty stubborn. So I'm like, we could do this with CiviBooking. And so I created this, these booking pages. It's not completely finished yet. It's so the, oh, this was working yesterday. Okay, so I did something in my configurations, I'm sorry, but basically it's a Calendly built on CiviBooking, where you select the date, you select the time, enter your information, and then if it's a paid resource, paying for things in Civi can be a bit more complicated. So as a, you know, first try would be just to, it sends a confirmation email with an invoice payment link, which, you know, standard invoice payment from CiviCRM, which is our like a contribution page with like these checksums to these tokens to identify people. And so they just see the amount the contributions already created, and it receives the payment and it changes it as completed. This works for like simple booking type of things, because this is just you associate a booking page with a resource configuration, which is the thing we want to book. And then we say, you know, lead time and then available times. So it's very early on development. And so I know there's lots of developers on the call, and like typically I would do this with Form Builder, which I tried, but it was a bit complicated. I had this old code lying around, so it was very quick to build. And as most things, I expected when I share code, other developers kind of show up and they say, why didn't you try this thing? And I'm like, well, okay, do it. And then they provide patches, and then it improves and goes in a different direction. So that's why I warn it's early on. But I think I've been showing this around to people, and they're like, I definitely need this for tomorrow. And I think it will be optional whether it relies on CiviBooking or not, because some people don't really need all these configurations and resources. They're just like a person and they want to book a meeting. But by integrating it with CiviBooking, it provides all those other features of CiviBooking as well. So it can start from just an early on, like replacing that web form where it's just like an interest. If I want, you know, can I book this room on this date? I see it's available. You book it as provisional. Then someone contacts you, finalizes the booking, sends a link to the payment, things like that. So I don't know if that answers your question, Craig. It's one possibility.
Great.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. I'm interested. I'll be interested to keep an eye on what develops. Thank you.
So I had another question, Mathieu, and I may have missed this, but take a scenario where you're renting, I don't know, projectors by the hour, and somebody wants to hire 5 projectors for 7 hours. The booking extension will do that calculation, that both the hours and the quantity, and work all of that out for you, would it?
I'm not sure. I don't think so. And I think that's why the new booking form provides this interface, so that you can see quickly what's already booked and what's available. I know there's logic in there to kind of avoid some conflicts. Again, because I took over maintenance. I shouldn't even say took over development, because Duncan's been doing a lot of the heavy lifting. So, I'll merge changes and I'll accept fixes from people, but I haven't yet. We've been doing a lot of code cleanup, so I know there is some logic in there, but I would kind of prefer not to overpromise and just say, like, rely on this interface. But if you do find that it could manage some conflicts better, then there's definitely room for, like, these are things we can easily improve. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Any other questions?
One from Corbin says, can this integrate into Civi events? i.e. users can say if they need a room booked for an event, so the coordinator can book a block of rooms at once.
That's a great question, and unfortunately the answer is not yet. Again, technically it would be fairly easy to implement, so I think that's a great idea.
So we should say, Mathieu, you are in the business of if someone came to you and said, look, I really need the extension to do this and I've got 500 Canadian dollars, you are taking on active development of new features if the requests come in, is that right? Yeah,
obviously I don't want to pitch everything as it will be development. Our primary role is maintenance, and there's been developers like Duncan is UK based, for example, so we might, if he's open to work, we might refer to him, or if you have developers that are resources, you're working with a consultant already, we're very open to that. This is not our baby, this is someone else's baby that, grew up and just happens to be in our community now, so we help and maintain it. But yes, definitely, if you have ideas and you have budget and you want to improve it, then Symbiotic or presumably Puka or many others can help.
Great, thank you. Do we have any other questions about CiviBooking?
I think that's us for now.
Anything in the room? Alison?
I've got lots of questions.
Yeah, Alison, go ahead.
So, first one is from my colleague who's not put it in the chat. She's messaged me instead. Which we were not entirely clear, and again, bear with us because we're just Civi beginners, so and we're users rather than developers. We're not entirely clear. The explanation that was given there about the payment, the workflow to the payment process. I think I understood Craig's question, but the essential question from us is, can we send out invoices directly from Civi, or does that depend on it being synced in with our finances?
Oh, definitely. So let me see here. Well, I mean, this is more of a general answer, maybe, and I hope I understood the question correctly. But so in Civi, you can record a contribution. Let's say just something basic, and then we put it on pending. So we have this payment, and okay. Normally, what you can do, and I'm really sorry for this bug, is that you have in Civi Contribute in the component settings, I think. There is you can enable tax and invoicing, and then somewhere, okay, default invoice payment page. So there's this setting that says, like, when I send an invoice, create a link to this payment page, which is a contribution page. I'm a terrible salesman because I'm a developer, and when I see things at Civi which are kind of inconsistent, I don't mind highlighting them, and we're kind of working on improving these things, but the wording of contribution page and invoice page, I admit, is confusing, but it's the same thing. So when this is activated, you can send an email from Civi to the contact that has this special token, and it will send them to this link to this page for payment. There's another extension which I recommend. invoice helper. And I think this is more helpful. Like invoice helper, when you view the contribution, you'll see the payment details and it says pay online link.
We're not seeing that. There it is. Yeah, got it now.
Okay. So sorry, this is probably tiny, but so when you view the pending contribution, you'll have this pay online link, and then you can easily copy paste that either in a send email or in Outlook or whatever. And so when they click on this, they'll land on a payment page that just has the right amount, their contact information, and they just need to enter a credit card and submit, and then your contribution will be changed to paid.
So we should say that the Civi contribute component will allow you to invoice, record payments, take payments through a payment processor for anything in Civi that you're making sale for, whether it's events, membership fees, donations, bookings. Yeah, so that integrates with lots of different components in Civi.
Yeah. Next question. That's right. To the calendar view, where it was, I think the page was something like public. You showed something that was like public view page or something.
This was Matthew's own booking calendar that was available to the public to make.
Yeah, so a key thing for us would be that we have up on our website a link to the calendar or the schedule so that customers can see what is available and when, and that it's really easy to see that at a glance rather than having to pick a date and click in each individually, each date. And then that they could see like a table schedule format that either the space is busy or that it's provisionally booked, and they can see when those gaps are, because so much of the work in taking bookings is this back and forwards that goes on with customers as to like, oh, well, they can't do that date, or what about this date, and what about that date? And the more that they can do that themselves visually on the website, it cuts out a massive chunk of work and emails and phone calls. So I wasn't clear if that was a possibility. What was there?
So, as Craig mentioned, one of the nice improvements with booking this year in 2025 was the integration with SearchKit, which also means SearchKit Calendar, which was developed by Aidan, which is on this call. And this is really cool because it takes any CiviCRM thing and you can show them, if they have a date, then you can show them in the calendar. So you could at least show when the rooms are booked, for example, or the different resources. And since it's SearchKit, if you're not familiar, it's a database query tool, which basically says like, show all my bookings in the next 60 days that are this status of this type of booking. And then you create your query. You say show it as a calendar, and then you embed that into a form that says now show this publicly on my website. So it's a few steps. But once you've done it, it's really like the first learning curve takes a few tries, but once you've done it, like this is really easy to implement.
Does that answer your question, Alison, or was it was the booking page in particular that you were interested in, was it?
No, it was the ability to see a calendar, but also to see more than one space against dates.
Yeah, so can you use this to go the further step of saying I have these slots available for bookings, and then allow people to make a booking in the available slots?
Like Airbnb.
Yeah.
I guess for now, with these two interfaces available, I guess you have to decide from which direction you're tackling it, which would either be from displaying when it's booked with like a link to book now, where I guess I would start with, okay, you're interested in booking, this is our current booking schedule, what's already booked. If you want to book, then I guess it could go through this type of interface, but this is like for one specific resource. Yeah. Eventually we could make it like where you can toggle or select the resource. like have a third, like an extra step here to select where it says at the top, select a meeting with Mathieu. It might be like room 1, room 2, and then you show the calendar for each room.
Yeah.
I feel like there might be a small gap, but we're almost there. So just finding the right interface.
It doesn't feel like a huge leap to get to that, does it? Yeah. Okay. Anything else, Alice?
Let me check my list.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Hi Matthew, I'm Ali. I'm a CiviCRM user, not a developer. When you were showing the sort of selecting the meetings on the calendar, does it have the ability that if, say for example, I booked a 2-hour meeting and the room is £50 an hour, that they would then automatically work that out and say they would put £100 in the basket kind of thing. And also we have standard rates and charity rates for our rooms. That would be able to take that into account as well.
The different rates is a good question. I'd have to get back to you on that. It might be that you have a different configuration for the standard config and the charity config.
Right.
Because then you can associate different rates. I think that might be a way of doing it.
But sharing the same space with the same resource, but at 2 different rates. Yeah. Okay.
Would it calculate based on the length of the booking, how much the client had to pay? Because a lot of the staff, our room rates are basically stuck in a post-it note next to my desk. So they run and check the post-it note. So if it did it for them, that would be great.
It's a good question. I'm always cautious in my responses. Again, I'm a developer, not a salesperson. With bookings, like with many other things, there's a lot of edge cases. But I think this is also, again, one of the nice things of CiviBooking. It does have a lot of edge cases already built in. It has a long history since 2013. I'm just not 100% familiar with all of them, but. Yeah.
So maybe the first step is to install CiviBooking, have a play, see how far we can take it, and then get in touch if there are still things that we're looking for.
I think my main other area of questions is around reports. So being able to, for us, we want to, at regular intervals, pull off reports of how well used our rooms are, like things like, whether usage has gone up over a certain period, number of cancellations. We also, at the moment, record in an extremely manual way, so if we could automate this at all, the number of inquiries that we've not been able to accommodate, because showing unmet demand also then helps look at where we need to change the business model. So so how it could integrate with the reporting bits of Civi, or would that all just be a question of building reports to do what you want it to do?
It's a good question. I'm always venturing in answering, but again, there's lots of people in the room who might have, like Craig or others, answers to this. But I guess for usage, I would rely on SearchKit, which is the query builder. So this might, at least for seeing, generating data, generating the base data. Maybe you might have to finish some of the stats in Excel, but you'd probably easily be able to say like how many bookings per month, how much trends over longer periods. Unmet demand is a good question, because if it's a calendar on the website and people are turning away without starting the booking process, then you're not collecting that information. It might be necessary to use a Google Analytics type of tool to see how many people are bouncing off, Matomo or whatnot. I don't really like those tools, but it's just like it's hard to know how many people turned away from the process, like with a membership page or a contribution page. Knowing how many people just saw the form and decided like, okay, this is too long, I'm not going to fill it in. So it's a good question. I don't think there were any, I disabled Civi report here, but CiviCRM had a reporting component that had these pre-made reports. And I turned it off here because generally they were very opinionated reports and not very flexible. You couldn't tweak them, so they kind of get replaced by SearchKit. Eventually, what we could do is there's a way to pre-bundle some SearchKit queries in the extension. So if there's like, usage report or things like this that you've built and you would like to share with the community, then we can integrate it in Booking so that when you install it, you don't need to rebuild those reports from scratch.
Paul, I think we had a Craig came in with.
Yeah, Craig was answering on that as well. He says under their current setup, the initial request is stored in a Civi activity, and he's suggesting you could use custom data on that activity to record failed inquiries, so where someone's booking doesn't get all the way through.
I think Aidan made a good clarification about contributions as well. It doesn't have to be an online payment gateway that you take people to pay invoices. Obviously, you can pass on information about bank transfers, where to send your checks, or deliver your wad of cash. So yes, all kind of options in CiviCRM. I'm a bit conscious of time. It's been absolutely brilliant, Mathieu, to kind of go through all of that. I'm sure some people probably have some more questions, but I think maybe if we can kind of keep to schedule right now, and we can kind of open the floor a bit wider. But thank you so much, Mathieu. That's been really, really useful. I think it just gives us all a sense of what we might be using that extension for. And thanks for all of your work in the community, looking after all of the extensions you do and all the good work you do. And I think I'll be in Montreal in July, so I'll look forward to some of that Cuban weather as well. So thank you. I know that there's a couple of things that we wanted to mention before we throw the session open for questions. First of all, I think William was going to talk a bit about an extension that Third Sector Design is looking at writing at the moment about political constituencies in the UK. So William, maybe you can tell us a little bit about that.
Hi, yes, and I'll just share my screen. Right. So this is just the blog post that I've put on the CiviCRM.org website recently. So basically the idea is that there's a lot of organizations that we work with that want to be able to map their contacts somehow to geographical areas. So there are various different use cases. So we've got some membership organizations that want to be able to create stats for regional stats. So how many people in the northwest of England opposed to the northeast, that sort of thing. There's other organizations we're working with who work on a county level, and they want to know sort of how many people they've got in each different ward within the county, or whatever boundaries they've got within that. We've also had requests from people who want to know how many people are in the constituency of an MP, so that they can send a message to them and say, could you campaign to this MP on that issue? So there's a service called Mapit, which provides all of this geographical data, and the plan is to link that to CiviCRM. So depending on what organization you're running, you can decide which areas are useful for you, whether you want the ward level information or the regional information. You choose which areas you want, and then you can put all of your contacts' addresses into those areas. So that's the idea. Does that sound of interest to anyone here?
There's lots of nodding going on in the room here, William. How would people get in touch with you about that if they want to add their penneth worth to the conversation?
Well, send a link. There's my email address, so it's williammortada@thirdsectordesign.org, but I'll send a link to the blog with more details, and that's got my email address at the bottom.
Great, thank you. And William, I'm sure some of you know, William runs the Northeast of England CiviCRM Meetup group. So thank you for the work you do down there as well, William. That's great, nice one. Craig, I think you were going to announce a meetup potentially in Manchester for CiviCRM.
Yeah. I have tried to set up, I have run meetups in Manchester before, but I think the last one was kind of like sometime in the COVID years, so we've not had much momentum. So we're running a meetup in person in Manchester next month. So actually 4 weeks time, the 26th of February. I'll hop onto the CiviCRM website in a moment and drop the link to the event in the chat. Manchester Mind, who are hosting it and who I work for, have just moved premises, so we're now on the edge of the city centre. We're about a 5-minute walk from Piccadilly Station. So the aim is to have it primarily in person, but I'm very excited personally because my chief officer's recently bought an owl, so I get an owl to play with, like what's on the desktop in front of you. So I think we can also make our meetup a online meetup as well. I just need to check that everything joins together. So at the moment, it's planned to be in person. Hopefully in the next week or so, I'll confirm we've got an online component as well, so more people can join us and sign up. Oh, William's already posted it. William's on the ball. Thank you. There's a link in the chat if you want to come and join us in Manchester next month. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. For any of you wondering what an owl is, it's this meeting owl that looks a bit like an owl, and it sits on the table, and it kind of is what is making this meeting look a bit like the opening credits of Dallas with all the kind of different people's faces. And anyway, so it's getting on to 4 o'clock. We'll finish at 4, but what we always try and do at these meetings is if anybody has any questions about CiviCRM, what it is, what it does, how to use it, any frustrations, anything you don't know, if it can do this for me. If there are any questions, I'll open it up now.
Today I worked out how much we're paying to MailChimp for. We send a monthly mail out to 3,800 subscribers once a month, and the payments have been going via our bookkeeper, so I wasn't seeing them, we were just using it. But we're paying £1,200 a year for that. So Marcus has been quietly encouraging me, saying, look, CiviCRM does do that, and you already have it, and it's free. So I think I'm finally to cede to Marcus's expertise, certainly based on that. But has anyone had any experience of importing a database of contacts from MailChimp to Civi? And was it smooth or not smoother?
I sat in the office on the 8th of January for us to do that exact same thing. Yeah.
How's it gone?
Well, we had quite a complicated lot of imports that wasn't just from MailChimp. So if you just looked at the MailChimp bit, it was pretty straightforward.
That was the easy thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
The memberships were the difficult bit.
Yeah. There's a bit in MailChimp Audience where you can download and export all your contacts, and it puts it in a giant spreadsheet, and then that's the basis for working out the import.
But Civi's quite pernickety about the format of the spreadsheet, is that right? Or
for mailing data, essentially you're going to need probably first name, last name, email address. So that's not complicated. 3 columns in a database CSV file that's imported into CiviCRM. And then it's just a case when you import it, how you tell Civi to decide if these are duplicate contact records that you already have in your database.
okay.
So there's dedupe rules that you can set up in CiviCRM where you can tell Civi, well, if the first name, last name, and email is the same in this data that I'm importing as a contact record in CiviCRM, consider it the same record and just add that contact to a mailing group. Or if it doesn't exist in Civi, create them as a new contact and add them to the mailing group. So it's actually Civi does most of the heavy lifting for you. It's not a big job. Is it just one mailing list that you're looking at importing?
Yeah, I think so. But how did you get away from Mandrill? Because that's the conundrum, isn't it? Because we're currently using Mandrill, but you have to have a MailChimp subscription in order to have Mandrill.
Right. So when you say Mandrill, we're talking now about email deliverability. So a lot of if you try and get email directly from your web server, your CiviCRM server, that has the tendency to go to people's junk mail, to go to spam mail, just because most email providers don't know what your CiviCRM server is and what it's doing, and it doesn't have a reputation for sending deliverable email. So it can be much better to send your email through a third-party service who have those reputable servers that are known.
There's an Amazon, wasn't there? Amazon SES?
Yeah, there's all kinds of services. So Mandrill is kind of what sends email for MailChimp, but there's other services like SparkPost, which has an EU service. There's Brevo, that used to be called Sendinblue, I think. There's Mailgun. So these are all services that you pay just for the kind of emailing bit.
Yeah.
So Civi passes all the bulk emails to this third-party service, and it will do the mailing.
Yeah, they play nice with Gmail, and they won't get spam, hopefully.
Now, most of those services are charging around $20 a month for around 10,000 emails. So you're paying like $120 per year.
Yeah.
Oh no, about $240 a year.
A tenth.
Yeah. So it is a much more financially viable way of going. And if you use the Mosaico extension, that is, it might not look as pretty as the MailChimp editor, but it does most of the things that the MailChimp editor does. Does anyone else want to come in on that? I mean, people will be using different mailing services, I guess. Are there any ones that people particularly recommend at the moment? Anything on chat?
Just me. I'm trying not to fire in with my sort of data protection head on and start talking about the differences between Mandrill and SparkPost and things like that, and the way that they use tracking pixels and what they use them for, and whether you can turn them off. The answer is no, not if you're using Mandrill, whether you use it or not. So yes, there are differences in terms of privacy when it comes to the different services. And I mean, the giveaway with SparkPost is the SparkPost EU, which just simplifies things, generally speaking, if you're considering any sort of changes there. But there are other EU-based services as well. So yes. But yeah, make sure that you can still link back to that record of consent. You'll notice when you export those huge spreadsheets from MailChimp, that it will say this person subscribed on this date and this is how they did it, and you can store that somewhere. If you've got that information but you haven't put it into CiviCRM, if you've moved across to using it, I mean, you hopefully still have that parked somewhere, so it's still something you can report back to, and you know that you've got that from MailChimp, so that's not a huge issue if that's not there. But yeah, if you're not creating that or not collecting that information and the record of consent in CiviCRM, yeah, how do you do that? How do people record and sort of opt-in information to CiviCRM?
I'm hoping that we can assume, because they've opted into receiving the thing already, that the consent is there. We have it stored. If there's an unsubscribe button at the bottom of the mail out, what is that? Where does that information go if they say stop emailing you?
When you say the unsubscribe link, do you mean when it gets sent from CiviCRM?
Yeah, so we send a mail out, but we're no longer going from MailChimp, it's going from Civi. There's an unsubscribe link. Where does that unsubscribe information go?
So it will go, it depends on the service you use. SparkPost EU has a good API, which means that if there is an unsubscribe from their service, that then gets passed back to CiviCRM, and CiviCRM puts the contact on hold, just so you can see that it doesn't get emailed again. There's also the unsubscribe link, which goes directly to CiviCRM to take them off the list as well. So with a bit of configuration, that can be automated. Yeah, absolutely. The other thing, just to add to what Matt said about privacy, which were all really good points, is when you look at some of these services online, some of them say that they handle transactional email, some of them say they handle bulk marketing email. And actually, we've kind of seen things that say, when I say transactional email, that would be things like, emails with invoices, room bookings, things like that, the kind of general things that Civi is sending out day to day. And then you've got your bulk marketing campaigns. Some transactional email services will say that they just do transactional email, they don't do bulk. I mean, in actuality, they probably do both until they catch you sending 1 million emails about Viagra or something. Yes. But do watch that as well in terms of signing up to a service. I think SparkPost do promote themselves as both transactional and bulk mailings.
SparkPost is the solution we have got very comfortable with over the last year.
Yeah, lately. Over the years, we've kind of used different services, but yeah, SparkPost we're using at the moment. So, yeah. One more question from the room. Thank you.
sorry, this is going to be a long question, or maybe question requiring a long answer, but you don't have to answer it all now. But I'm very new to this, okay? I've been running a membership organization for like 5 years, 10 years altogether. We're a spin-out from the University of Edinburgh. Data privacy and GDPR of utmost importance because we were, but at the same time, just tiny organization, like 1.5 employee. We're going through waves of funding. Currently with Very Connect as a membership platform, but finding them not flexible enough. Essentially, every change I need to wait or I need to pay, God knows what yet, and then on top membership. So I look at different options. I don't want to, we have lots of members in the US, but I don't want to go that direction. I want to stay in Europe, essentially. So I want to move everything back to the continent, every service that we've got. So I was looking, and this was recommended to me, but I'm not a technical person, which means I need someone to help me start. So how do people get started when they don't have the technical? I am actually very interested in learning all of these things because I love to adjust things. So that's why I want, I don't want a ready product that every single tiny thing costs. But how do people start? How do you?
Yeah, that might be a question best picked up by a Civi user. Is anyone in the chat willing to, or Paul in the room, do you want to?
Well, that is a route that you can go. You can, what's the main URL? CiviCRM.org. You can literally go on there and start looking at developer documentation, look at how you could install Civi yourself if you have that kind of technical leaning. If not, then there is CiviSpark, which is CiviCRM's own platform, where you can kind of test in a lightweight way the core of CiviCRM. Beyond that, you probably talk to an agency. There's at least 3, I think 4 agencies here. So there's obviously Marcus, Mads, and Sean from Puka on here. We've got William, we've got Mathieu, we've got Craig there from different agencies.
There as well.
The CiviCRM website lists a number of partner organisations. Have a look at those. There's loads in the UK if that's where you're looking to start. And I think most of us would be happy to give you kind of an initial tutorial just to see what you're looking at. Good show.
So I understand what I actually need.
Exactly.
And Mathieu made a very good point in the chat. There's also Civi Academy. So the core Civi team have at CiviCRM.com/academy. They have training videos, and I believe that there is a small fee for those. But that now I think has around, correct me if I'm wrong, about 60 or so videos describing different parts of CiviCRM from an administrator's perspective. So that can be very
they're being too modest to say it because they're all sitting in the room, but we've used Puka. We're at the Scottish Poetry Library. We've used them for about 8 years, and they're really, really good. Which of these guys. But they're doing the right thing and not recommending themselves. But as one of their clients, I would.
And on that bombshell.
Training videos that I would also say. I have a slightly related question to that, which is for somebody who's not technically minded, and I'm also thinking about, so our organisation is heavily reliant on volunteers, and I am going to shortly have to bring in volunteers to do some of the work I've been doing. Is there a way of simplifying the dashboards or some of the views so that it looks a lot less techy?
Yes, so there's Civi has some very fine-grained access control levels and permissions. So you can set up so somebody who's logging in can only see certain components in CiviCRM. If they don't need to see the memberships or the events, that can be hidden, or even restricted to just seeing certain contacts based around groups, or even just having permission to kind of view records and not necessarily edit them as well. So there's a lot of that in Civi, and if you go onto the access control screen, there's literally hundreds of lines of things that you can check or uncheck for different user
I have been
roles.
looking at that and was a bit overwhelmed by how many options there
Yes,
was.
there are a lot of options.
But I guess my question isn't, because I think I knew that bit already.
Yeah.
What I was wondering is more, like at the moment when I go in, I see the whole Civi dashboard,
Yeah.
similar to what Matthew showed in his screen at the beginning, whether that bit can just be made, it's like when you create a SharePoint site, you know, you can create like a home page that looks really simple.
So one way of doing that is through SearchKit and Form Builder, which is reasonably new to CiviCRM, but that will allow you to create certain views and forms if you're just wanting people to get certain data into Civi or see certain tables in Civi. Beyond that, you can use the CiviCRM API to create interfaces, literally code them from scratch. We've done this for a number of organizations. If, you know, volunteers just need to see a register of people who are supposed to be attending their class this evening and, you know, check whether they've come or not, you can create those very simple interfaces and people don't have to go anywhere near the Civi admin area as well. So that's a lot easier than it used to be. It does require a little bit of development work though. I'm going to, yes, I think we need something about contact layout editor as well. So that's a good point. There's an extension that will allow you to pare down the different, on the contact screen, pare down what you see in different tabs on the contact record as well for different user roles as well. So it's called the contact layout editor, I think, William. I'm sorry, I popped up on the screen. Yeah, he's not. So yes, you can do that as well. I'm conscious it's 4 minutes past 4, so we'll probably close down the meeting now. Thank you for everyone who joined us online. Thank you for Mathieu. That was really a really good presentation. We're meeting again on the 30th of April. So if people have any suggestions for what they'd like to see covered, or even if they would like to present at the next Civi Scotland Meetup, we'd be delighted to hear from you. Let us know. We're on LinkedIn. We're on. You can see the meetups through your Civi dashboard, of course, through CiviCRM and on the Civi Mattermost channel. But yeah, we'll wind it up for now. So thanks for everyone coming. Thank you for moderators and yeah, for everyone's contribution today. So yeah, take care. Good.